Good morning, everyone. This week we begin reading the remarkable story of Joseph and the brothers, where the brothers throw Joseph into the pit and then sell him into slavery. And then within slavery, he's thrown into a prison. And after 10 years in prison, the Torah says he interprets the dreams of the butler and the baker. And then he's recommended to Pharaoh to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. And then he becomes the viceroy of Egypt. And then he's reunited with his brothers and his father after 22 years. But if I were to ask you, what was the turning point in the life of Joseph? His life was going in a downward spiral, a downward trajectory. First in a pit, then into slavery, then into a prison in Egypt. But then he rises to the greatness of his fulfillment of all of his dreams, to be a leader, to be the viceroy of Egypt. But what was the defining moment that his life began to turn around? And you may say it was the moment he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams. But the truth is, he only interpreted Pharaoh's dreams because he had already successfully interpreted the dreams of the butler and the baker, who recommended him to Pharaoh. But the truth is that the real defining moment was what the Torah says in this week's Torah portion. Joseph is in the prison in Egypt after 10 years. And one day, he's walking through the prison, and he sees the butler and the baker of Pharaoh who were imprisoned with him. And he sees that they look sad. And the Torah says, he says to them, Madua penechem zoafim hayom. Why do your faces look so downcast today? And at that point they say, we have these dreams that are disturbing us. We don't know their meaning. And Joseph says, tell me your dreams. Maybe God will give me the interpretation. And then he interprets their dreams. And from there, he rises to become the viceroy of Egypt. And if you think about it, had he not asked them, is everything okay? Why do you look so sad today? He would have never interpreted their dreams. He would have never been recommended to Pharaoh. He would have never been freed from prison. He would have never been reunited with his brothers and his father. And you may say, Joseph was in prison. Why would he not expect them to look sad in prison? Why did he show this concern for them? He had his own troubles and worries. He could have been bitter and depressed and angry at the world of the injustice of what happened to his life. But even in the depths of his pain, being in a prison in Egypt, alienated from his family, betrayed by his brothers, he still looked around and said, how can I help another person? Someone looks sad. Maybe I could help alleviate their sadness. And because of his love and concern for his fellow inmates in prison, he was freed from his own prison and became the viceroy of Egypt. It's a story that happened in South Africa a number of years ago. There was a kosher slaughterhouse with hundreds of employees who came to work every day. And there were all sorts of employees, including rabbis, who came in every day to do the kosher slaughtering of the animals. And one day, after a long day, it was about 6 p.m., and the security guard was at the front, and they were about to lock up the building for the night, when the security guard said, I haven't seen Rabbi so-and-so leave the building. Has anyone seen him? And they said, no. And he said, let's look for him. And so they went around the slaughterhouse calling his name. And finally they came to one back room where there was a big walk-in freezer. And when they come to this room, they hear banging on the door. And they go to open the door. And there was the rabbi who had accidentally walked into the freezer and it had locked behind him. And he was freezing after being there for over an hour, banging on the door. When he came out, he said, I can't believe you saved my life. Had you locked the building, I would have been here all night. I would not have survived. But they asked the security guard, there are hundreds of employees who leave the building. How did you notice that he hadn't left? And the security guard, his name was Tony, said, I'll tell you the truth. He says, everyone comes to work in the morning, they walk right by my desk. I just sit there. But this rabbi, without fail, every single morning when he walks in, he gives me a big smile and he says, good morning, Tony. How are you? And then when he leaves at the end of the day, he never leaves without saying goodnight to me and wishing me well. He said, I sit at my desk, it's a boring job, but I always look forward to his morning greeting and his evening greeting. When he didn't come by to wish me a good night, I knew he wouldn't leave the building without saying goodnight to me. And therefore I knew he must still be in the building. Whoever we meet, under all circumstances, even if we're not having the best day like Joseph in prison, You should always look around and say, how can I help another person? How can I put a smile on someone else's face? Because you never know. That may be the key to your own freedom. Have a wonderful day.